Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well as usual. So as promised, I'm back today with another collection update. So in today's update, I will actually be talking about just a small handful of albums, so hopefully this will be a relatively short video for my standards. I also picked up these releases, by the way, they're all brand new. I also picked up a whole bunch of secondhand CDs, but I'm going to separate that into another video, just so these videos aren't too long. And that other latter video will be another edition of Bargain Bin Buys. Yeah, so today these are all brand new releases and several albums. I don't want to give away how many just yet, but we will just get straight into it. So first of all, I recently picked up this. This is THYRANE with Black Harmony. And if you watched my Metal Tag 2026, I briefly talked about this album as the last album I picked up in 2025. So it came just before New Year, I think, in the mail. Yep, so if you're not familiar with THYRANE, that's THYRANE. They play keyboard heavy symphonic black metal. So that's just a very brief summary for you. How to describe it in a little more detail, there's a lot of blasting and fast sections, but also a lot of mid-paced moments with atmospheric choral kind of keyboard, so in that vein of Emperor, and also a lot of very catchy melodies. And not surprisingly, because this band is Finnish, a lot of the keyboard moments are very quirky, intricate, and striking. So I mentioned before, Nuclear Holocausto Vengeance from Beherit said, all Finnish music, whether it's black metal, whether it's techno music, has that little nutcase Finnish sound. This is definitely a shining example of that. You can just definitely hear it. Like the keyboards aren't just open chords, you know, they have like a lot of intricate notes and moments, like you know, like the way Children of Bodom does it, even though this sounds nothing like that, but you know, like very intricate, like almost keyboard solo-y kind of parts. But yeah, very good. And to give you an idea, the actual keyboard sound in terms of the production, it reminds me, it's very similar to that of the keyboard sound on Dimmu Borgir's Enthroned Darkness Triumphant. So if you like that keyboard sound, you'll enjoy this as well. And in addition to that, there are some spoken word sections, apart from the raspy black metal vocals that we've all come to expect. They have some spoken word sections, but they're very sort of distorted and deep and muffled, a bit like the spoken word sections in Vargravs. So like that kind of warbling sound, you could say, with the spoken word. So yeah, you can probably tell from what I've said so far, this is not really that groundbreaking or original in terms of symphonic black metal, but it's still enjoyable, definitely, if you like that traditional symphonic black metal and keyboard drenched black metal sound. And personally, I love that, so no wonder that I like this. In addition to that, the drums are very clear and punchy in the mix, but they are not overpowering. The blast beats are fantastic, and the fills are absolutely thunderous. So it's definitely got some punch with the percussion. And interestingly, you'll see here, there's only 4 tracks on this album, and it says total blasphemy, 35 minutes and 12 seconds, so 4 tracks. So 4 quite long and epic tracks. I think some of them are like 9 to 11 minutes or something like that, but it's not about the number of tracks, it's about the quality of the music, and I think this actually counts as an album. All of the tracks are on here, so you have Black Harmony, Sacrifiers, like as a play on words of sacrifice, Enthroned by Antichrist, and Satanic Ages Overture. All 4 tracks are fantastic. But probably my favorites are the last 2. So first of all, Enthroned by Antichrist. That has so many twists and turns with throughout the song, with blasting sections which then flow into catchy mid-paced grooves and keyboard sections. And some of the keyboard lines are really quirky and striking. So you know, those kind of standout moments where you go, oh wow, that's interesting. And Satanic Ages Overture, the last track, has some really good guitar melodies. So that's proving that they're not relying purely on synthesizers to make this an interesting band. So yeah, absolutely great release. My only criticism, there's none really, it's just over in 35 minutes, but as I've said countless times, I prefer a short album to an excessively long album. So here's the cover. It's a little bit cheesy, but don't be daunted by that. It at least tells you what to expect from this. So like black metal, there's the band members on the back in corpse paint. I think there's 4 of them, but one's, you can't see this guy, he's sort of obscured in the shadows, and all the tracks. Just show you the contents, because I think there's some interesting sections. Okay, yep, so we've got the insert. This is actually the record sleeve, but you can see here all lyrics and photos of all 4 band members. Yep, so once again, as is always the case, I don't really spend a lot of the time with the lyrics. I used to when I was a lot younger, you know, when you have you had a smaller collection, so you had the time to do that. But yeah, the music is absolutely fantastic. I will read along with these one day, I'm sure. So you can see it's got that very sort of old school aesthetic and vibe. And I believe this just comes on plain black vinyl, so yeah, these labels here. So yeah, very traditional, back on black, black metal, in terms of the layout, that is. Yeah, so yeah, and just to mention something else, the way I was introduced to this band was through my Australian friend Greg. Back in the tape trading days in the early 2000s, he copied this album for me, as well as another album by theirs called Symphonies of Infernality. Great title. I don't even know if infernality is a real word, but that's what makes it cool. So Greg, if you're watching, thanks a lot, mate. Really appreciate you getting me into this band. And as you may have suspected, I would recommend this to fans of bands like Dimmu Borgir, Emperor, Vargrav, and Lord Chaos. So just that very sort of keyboard-drenched, keyboard-based, melodic symphonic black metal. So absolutely fantastic. I think there was some debate. I used to say, I'm not sure if it's pronounced THYRANE or THYRANE, because in the Marduk song, Demi Quairan THYRANE, that's how they say it. But I don't know, it sounds more natural for me to say THYRANE. What do you guys think? Or maybe THYRANE, THYRANE. But, you know, call it what you want. But absolutely fantastic release of symphonic black metal. That's THYRANE with Black Harmony. All right. Coming up next, we have some more black metal for you. And this is one, I wouldn't say it's a grail as such, but it's one I've been meaning to get for a long time. This is HECATE Enthroned with Upon Promethean Shores, and then in brackets, Unscriptured Waters. And my battery's already playing up. Yeah, so very glad to have picked this up, because this now rounds off my 90s HECATE Enthroned black metal collection, because I do own the other two albums, namely The Slaughter of Innocents, A Requiem for the Mighty, and Dark Requiems on vinyl. This one is an EP actually, so it was their debut release, but it's probably one of their most famous, I would say. So if you're not familiar with HECATE Enthroned, sorry if I'm repeating myself, because I've said this many times, but I think it's relevant and important to say in case this is your first time hearing about them. They're a band from the UK, a black metal band from the UK, I think originally from Wales, but now they're based in Cheshire, England. So they have some English and Welsh members, I think, but they've often been compared to Cradle of Filth. Now, before some of you start running for the exits, let me explain. There is some slight difference. Some people have called that a lazy comparison, but there is no denying that in terms of the drum sound, the keyboards, and the vocal style, it is very similar to Cradle of Filth. However, where these bands differ is Cradle of Filth branched off into a more sort of gothic, vampiric, romantic direction, whereas this band has always been an overtly satanic band and focusing on more sort of like haunting, scary atmospheres. So it's just like a different version of Cradle of Filth with an emphasis on different themes, because I think it's very important to stress that, because a lot of people say, oh, you're saying they're like Cradle of Filth, then forget about it. I think you're really missing out if you don't check this band out, because it's just fantastic symphonic keyboard-based black metal again. And yeah, I've liked this band for a very long time indeed. So what is interesting though, even though I said this has got, it's keyboard oriented or keyboard based black metal, there's still a very meaty, heavy guitar sound on this particular release. So the keyboards aren't going all the time, but they do play a lot. So it's not like Emperors in the Nightside Eclipse. And it does have that very British sound, the sound of, it makes you want, like picture wandering through ancient Britannia or something like that. But yeah, cool cover art to sort of match that. And yes, with this particular release, it was like from the mid-90s, so they were donned in all the corpse paint and everything, so it's that very traditional aesthetic. And I just love this. It's really good, just a haunting, atmospheric soundscape. You know, one of those kind of symphonic black metal releases where it just paints pictures and images in your mind of these, you know, like dark landscapes or forests or whatever. Very, very good indeed, and there are no bad tracks. I will just say that the opening track, which is entitled Promethea, Thy Darkest Mask of Surreality, what a fantastic title. It's just so haunting. It's just got these somber keyboards and it has these whispered, creepy vocals, and I really like the line in it. I think he says, yes, we are the essence of warm winters, but like just the way he whispers it in combination with the keyboards is really good. But cutting right to the chase, no bad tracks, but my absolute favorite tracks on this release, firstly would be track 5, An Ode for a Haunted Wood, which is possibly one of the most famous songs by the band. It's just so atmospheric with the keyboards, and it has a lot of twists and turns and great riffs in it, so I really like that song. You might be familiar that An Ode for a Haunted Wood had a video clip which Terrorism magazine described as hilariously bad. Like, no offense to the band, but the video clip is quite comical because I think it came across as, like, I'm not disrespecting the band. I think the band was so angry with this particular video clip that they almost split up over it, so they weren't happy with it, how it turned out either. But it sort of comes across as people trying to look scary, but it just looks funny. Like, if you know the clip, you know, otherwise go and watch it. So the video clip for HECATE Enthroned's An Ode for a Haunted Wood. But having said that, while there are some comical, hilarious moments, I still really like the video clip because I think it has some very dark and atmospheric moments, especially when they're out in the forest, you know, holding smoking chalices and goblets, and when they're lighting pentagrams inside this old warehouse and walking among ancient ruins. It just really sets the atmosphere. So I don't care what people say, even though some regard the video clip as funny, it still has some atmospheric quality, I think. And my other favorite track on this is actually a bonus track, Dance Macabre. And what I really like about that is just the clean guitar melodies. But yeah, all 7 tracks are on this. I mean, on this are really good. They also have another bonus track called Luciferian Death Code. But, you know, I think other favorites from fans are The Crimson Thorns, My Immortal Dreams, and A Graven Winter. But yeah, like I said, no bad tracks on this. So, yep, so you can see it's got that old school aesthetic, corpse painted minions breathing fire. Very cool cover art, as I said. And just showing you, this is a digipack that I picked up, so there's no booklet for this one, but you see all the members there in corpse paint. So this was a lineup from long ago. So it's Nigel on guitars, he's still the main member of this band. John Kennedy on vocals, rest in peace. Mark with a C on guitars, and Mark with a K on bass. Steve on keyboards, and Andy on drums. Yeah. So, oh, and Mark with a C, not Mark G with a C, but Mark with a C in this band. Rest in peace, he passed away a few years ago, as did John Kennedy. So, yeah, talented musicians gone too early. But absolutely fantastic release. So, needless to say, if you like symphonic or keyboard-based black metal, definitely check it out. And like I said, if you like Cradle of Filth and you haven't heard this band, check it out. But if you don't like Cradle of Filth, also check it out, because you may find that it's a different version that you actually like. So yeah, recommended for fans of Cradle of Filth, Emperor, Dimmu Borgir, you know, all of those symphonic bands, but don't think it's exactly the same. It has a distinctly British sound, and it's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, now, like I said, I now own all 90s releases by this band, and they've also released subsequent albums, which I'd really like to get hold of. They all sound really good, and this band is about to release a new album, I think. So yeah, really looking forward to hearing that as well. Now, not that I'm some authority or something, but if I had just one suggestion for this band, it would be, the sound is fantastic, but guys, put the corpse paint back on. Because I saw a video clip of them playing at a concert without corpse paint, and that's cool, of course, but I just really think with this music, corpse paint adds to the atmosphere and the presentation of this music. And it's like Jeff Whitehead from Leviathan said, like, corpse paint can be goofy, but when it's done well, it's cool and it adds atmosphere. And I just think it really suits this band. Like, I know it was a big thing in the mid to late 90s when a lot of bands took off the corpse paint because they saw it as old hat, but those days are long gone. I think if this band donned the corpse paint again, it would be cool. But anyway, fantastic release. HECATE Enthroned with Upon Promethean Shores. All right, and one more album to talk about today. Now moving from black metal to some traditional heavy metal, you could say. This is a classic album which needs no introduction. I finally picked up SAVATAGE with The Hall of the Mountain King. Yep, so SAVATAGE, classic heavy metal band from the US, and they belong to a movement which is regarded as the American power metal movement. So a lot of these bands playing that sort of epic fantasy-oriented style in the 80s, but it was before all that cheesy late 90s European and German power metal, you know, like, we are metal, you know. It's not like that. Like, this is just like, it's pretty much traditional heavy metal, but very atmospheric and fantasy oriented, and I just love it. And this was a band which I'd heard the name for years, and to be honest, it was the name that grabbed me. I thought SAVATAGE, that's interesting, like I'm assuming it was a play on words of sabotage, but actually, if you know the history of this band, they were going to call themselves Avatar, but another band already had that name, so they changed it, but I think SAVATAGE is much more interesting anyway. Yeah, so it is traditional heavy metal, or like old American power metal, but it's very original. It's not just your standard, like, chugging locomotive riff heavy metal, not at all. There are some really unusual tempos and riffs on this, which are all very catchy though. It's very melodic, there are incredible guitar solos and a lot of twists and turns in the songs, and they even use some keyboards for additional atmosphere. So this is not your typical run-of-the-mill heavy metal band. It's just really, again, quirky and interesting, I think. And I just think whenever a heavy metal band sounds original, whether young or old, that's absolutely fantastic. One major highlight of the band as well is, of course, the vocals of lead vocalist John Oliva. He has those kind of soaring, high-pitched heavy metal vocals, but in addition to that, they can be a bit raspy, and I think the way they described it in the Metal School documentary, he sounds witchy with his voice. Like, it's just, I don't know, it makes you feel immersed in this fantasy world when you listen to him. It's like he's the narrator of this fantasy story, but it's done so well, and I like the fact that, you know, he can really burst out the powerful melodies and everything, but sometimes he does these occasional, oh shit, my voice sounds much higher than that, but like just these screeches, these outbursts, but like it adds to the witchiness of this, which is so cool. So this album has just an incredible atmosphere. It's like the portal, an aural, A-U-R-A-L, portal to the an epic fantasy world. That's how I would describe it. So everyone probably knows all the songs on this already, but my favorite tracks on this are track 1, 24 Hours Ago. That's the name of the song. It's got some very unusual tempos, which make it really interesting. I also really like track 3, Legions, some incredible guitar solos in that. Track 4, Strange Wings, that's got such a catchy anthemic chorus, and could it be my favorite song on the album? Quite possibly, but then again, that's a contender with the title track, Hall of the Mountain King, just so incredibly epic. It's absolutely brilliant. So White Witch is catchy. No, like, there's not one bad song on this of the 10 tracks. Only thing with this Digipack re-release, which I got as a gift for Christmas from a family member. So I like the whole album, but they include some bonus tracks here called track 11 and track 12, Castles Burning and Somewhere in Time Alone You Breathe. I don't like those tracks personally because they are more sort of in the vein of that piano rock opera sound, which the band later went for on albums like Gutter Ballet and Streets. That's sort of where my interest drops off with SAVATAGE. I love the 80s stuff, and this is from 87. This was kind of like the pinnacle of their 80s material. But having said that, there are some other SAVATAGE albums which I really like. The early ones, like what's it called, Sirens and Fight for the Rock. You know, like the first 3 albums in particular. I know some of those albums got a lot of flack for being terrible, but I like that 80s hard rock heavy metal sound, and this has that too, but it's just epic, laden with that fantasy theme. So cool cover there, iconic really, and there's picture on the back, sorry, the title's on the back. Just got the disc there, which is upside down, and I did wash my hands before, so hopefully I don't get this pristine book dirty with grubby fingerprints. Yep, so just all of the lyrics there and credits and so on, some band photos, another photo of the band there. Yep, so like I said, I'm probably, you know, preaching to the converted because most of you probably know who SAVATAGE are, but if by any chance you haven't heard them, definitely check them out. Start with this album because it's considered an absolute classic. It's just like traditional heavy metal, but with a creative twist, and it's very atmospheric and it's immersed in that fantasy world and conjures such images. So yeah, SAVATAGE, Hall of the Mountain King. Fantastic album. All right, and that'll do it for today, guys. So they are my 3 brand new releases which I picked up. Like I said, I also picked up some secondhand ones, but they're going to be in a separate video entitled Bargain Bin Buys. I also have some threads coming up, so I'm sort of going to alternate between collection and thread. But as always, you know, if you have any ideas that you'd like to share with me for videos, please do. I have had some suggestions recently, so if you've asked me about ideas, some of those, I was considering doing, like workout metal albums, something like that. So yeah, I'm always welcoming your suggestions and comments. So thanks a lot for your support of the channel as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. That would really help and I'd appreciate it. And that wraps it up for today. So I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.